YouTubers, this is Kevin from Survivor Super Fun Time Show, and today we're going to be talking about episode 3 of Survivor 46. This is an episode that follows what I would probably consider kind of a bummer of an episode from episode 2 of the season. That's when Jessica gets voted out of the game. They used a fake idol in order to kind of boondoggle herself out of the game. Now, we follow it up with, the idea that there has to be a lot of prosperity for the Yanu tribe, for Bhanu in particular. And, you have Kenzie, Tiffany, and Q ready to figure out how they're going to pick up the pieces and move forward. Eventually, we're like, all right, there's got to be another journey coming, which there was. But really, only more misery came for the Yanu tribe in this episode. And we're going to talk all about it. But first, I want to remind you, if you want to be a member of this channel, hit the subscribe button, please. It helps out greatly in order to make this channel grow. And I appreciate it very much, as it is a fun thing for me to talk about Survivor with all of you. Also, it encourages people to come onto the channel. Do you think I'm going to be able to get heavy hitters like Brando on this channel if I'm going to have small numbers? No. We need to do better, and I need you to help me do that. The episode starts off like it pretty much always does, when the losers from the previous episode, they come back to camp and they talk about what went down. Really, the best way to summarize this is Bhanu cried a lot, and he felt like he had been bamboozled in like a really weird way. If anything, he probably should have felt a little refreshed, but instead he just felt really sad. Then we wake up the next day, and it looks like Kenzie and Bhanu are trying to kind of work on something. Really, Bhanu's trying to work on something. And he made it very clear to Kenzie, he's like, listen, I'm sorry I'm doing the impression, but I need you to help me, Kenzie. And Kenzie's like, okay, so what are you proposing? Let's talk it out. And Bhanu's like, I have no plans. I'm not throwing anyone's names out, nothing like that. And I feel so much for Kenzie in this situation because I believe Kenzie's there to play the game. I think she's willing to get rid of Tiff or Q in a second, if it makes sense. Because in some ways, Bhanu is a great person to have with you moving forward in the game. Kind of like what Q was talking about. He's really loyal. So if you just say, get over here, Bhanu, sit down, you are going to vote for this person, Bhanu's probably going to do it. For some reason, when Kenzie was giving him the adult real talk, like, do you understand how hard it is for me to work with you when you won't give me any names or give me any kind of plan, right? And Bhanu apparently does not see that as like too much of an issue when trying to forge a new relationship with someone who's in the majority at the moment. He's on the bottom. He should be throwing out every name he can get at this point, but he is not willing to. And thankfully, Kenzie in her confessional, she really encapsulated. She said Bhanu is just not here to play the game. Some people, Probst talked about this a long time ago, some people are meant to sit and watch the game, and some people are meant to play the game. And Bhanu, it appears at this point, he is not meant to play this game. And that really is pretty consistent throughout the episode. Which, I have to say this ahead of time, I love Bhanu. I think Bhanu is wonderful casting. I think he's a wonderful human being from what I can tell. I am very glad his presence is being felt on Survivor 46. Now, at the same time, I'm probably going to continue to say things that are going to poke a lot of holes in his game because he has had maybe the roughest start I've seen to a Castaway's game from a stability standpoint since like Kathy in Survivor Micronesia. And that lady was going off the deep end, okay? And it sounds like there were some external things going on at the time, but as you're watching the show, you don't know that. And with Bhanu, the dude is crying all the time. Go to the immunity challenge where Yanu was looking pretty good, and Nami was looking bad. And by the way, Nami ends up coming back, but when they were doing it, they did the coolest move I may have ever seen in a challenge. It's like Jonathan carrying that giant ladder in Survivor 42 by himself in the water, and this are like so close to me at this point on how epic they are. Look at it right here. Look at this flip. Wow! That flip is one of the coolest things I've seen. Now, if they ever do this challenge and people don't implement that flip strategy, they're missing out. That was a legitimate game changer move. What I was getting to was Siga ends up beating Yanu, and Siga and Nami once again are safe. Q really botched it at the end, and he couldn't get the bags up on the platform, and he really wasn't very good. So they have that problem. But after that, they get to go on the journey. Now Nami, since they ended up kind of winning that one, Liz was the one who ends up going to the journey, which is awesome because we want to see more of Liz. A lot of people are really questioning why she keeps talking about money. And now we get to see a little bit more of a fleshing out of Liz this episode. And then we also have Ben, who's another guy. It's been alluded to how cool and rockerish he is. And we really got to see his emotional spectrum this episode, which I thought was really fun, how empathetic he was. And they didn't really have a choice because Bhanu was the person who was picked to go from Yanu. Now, it's important to note, Bhanu was picked by Nami in order to go. Now, I would think there's a lot of strategy in that choice. Because if I'm Nami, if I'm Liz, I'm looking over at Yanu and I'm like, who can we extract the most information from? Because Bhanu looks like he's ready to just give it all away, right? And I think that was probably a wise decision because once they get to the journey, he gives it all away. He tells them in kind of a nonsensical tirade, like very like crying, low-key tirade. He told them, Kenzie is running everything. Anyone who's going, it is Kenzie's choice. That is what's happening right now. Then he also peppers in real quick. He's like, well, Tiffany and Q will never vote for each other, though. But it's Kenzie. Kenzie's in control of everything. Just by hearing that, you go like, well, Q and Tiffany are probably in control of everything then, if that's the case. So that doesn't really make sense. So, but anyway, beside the point, really, Nami and Siga just got so much information from all of this. I'm sure they barely even had to talk about their own tribes because Bhanu was just crying and talking and spilling and word vomiting. You couldn't even worry about the actual journey itself. Like, I didn't even care. The whole time I was just like, yo, this dude is throwing Kenzie under the bus. And Kenzie was the only one trying to work with him. Well, I guess Q was a little bit too, but Q looked in Bhanu's face and said, I want you to be my Philip Shepard. Now, if you're a Survivor player with any like self-respect, even if you're on the bottom, you just punch Q in the face right there. You just look up to him and you go, I'm not your Philip. Although that would probably make you more of a Philip if you did punch him and then flex. Realistically, like no one has respect for you. If anyone says, you're my Philip Shepard, zero respect in this regard. So I'm surprised that Bhanu didn't have an issue there. And bold on Q. I don't think Q's dumb at all. I like Q's game a lot, actually. The fact that Q felt comfortable enough to tell Bhanu, I'm Boston Rob, you're Philip Shepard, blew my mind. Blew my mind. But anyway, I didn't actually talk about the journey. The way it rolls out is there's 3 rocks that you draw from the bag. If you end up getting the odd rock, that means you're not going to play the game and you go home. You just go back to your tribe, no harm, no foul. If you actually get one of the 2 colored rocks, you have to go do a thing where you have to essentially assemble a cube using several different pieces before the hourglass runs out. You lose your vote if you lose it. And they did. They lost it, both of them. It was Ben and Bhanu. They both lost their votes. They both go back to their camps. Obviously, Siga and Nami are like, yeah, Bhanu said Kenzie's running everything, and he spilled all the tea. The only thing that was kind of an interesting catch was Ben, he was super smart because he said, we'll find out at the next vote basically what I did, like whether I got it or not. So he wanted his tribe to think that he could still have his vote. And that was really smart on Ben's part because I think up to this point, no one's looking at Ben as some kind of like strategic god or anything. So we're already seeing like a little bit of an inkling as to Ben's intelligence in the game. And I love that. Ben is so freaking funny. Now, going back to Nami real quick, kind of the big highlight from it was, Venus was talking about how maybe Hunter needs to go because Hunter is really good at everything. We find out that he is another one of these puzzle makers in his backyard. Shocker. I'm not surprised by that at all. But he's a hardworking guy, knows how to make some awesome stuff, and everybody in Nami likes him. Venus is the only one that doesn't. And I had to give it to Venus because she's becoming a really awesome character. At first, you looked at her and you said, she's going to be the hot girl on this season. Maybe there won't be more complexity. But there is, totally. I love it, although I noticed her explanation for trying to get rid of Hunter is, it sounds like Kelly Kapoor. They're like, okay, well, tell me what you observed or what your reasoning is. And hers is, my reasoning is, I'm not blind. If you're an ally, like, how do you roll with that, right? Can you be more specific about what you're not blind about? If I'm Randon, that's what I'm thinking. And poor Randon. Randon said he had the tingles on the one side of his body, had the doc check him out. And the whole time, myself, who knows nothing about anything medical, and I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac, I'm like, oh, Randon had a stroke. Definitely had a stroke. And the whole episode, we're just going to wait to find out he had a stroke. It turns out, though, at the end of the episode, he did end up getting medically evac'd from the game, which is unfortunate. It's also a fun coincidence. Every person that I could think of that's been medevac'd from the new era have all come from an orange tribe, and they were all men. So from 42, Jackson, taken from the game. 44, Matthew G. He was on his way to do pretty well in the game, but taken out of the game because of his shoulder, because he fell off a stupid cliff or a rock Cliff, whatever. And then now we have Randon of the Nami tribe. All out of the game, all sadness. Now, we did find out something interesting because Randon was the holder of the Beware advantage at the Nami tribe. He didn't actually end up completing it. So that means I assume it's going to be put back into the game. Now, myself, as a fan, I go, why wouldn't Randon just give it to Venus, who's his really only ally? But actually, Venus put on Twitter, and I don't think it's a Randon anymore. She deleted the tweet, I'm pretty sure. And what she said was, once it's opened up, the person that opened it has to keep it. So even if they're leaving the game, they can't just be like, oh, here you go. Here's the Beware advantage. Now go find the idol. No. So it looks like instead it's going to be re-hidden. But speaking of the Beware advantage, we finally found the one on Siga, and it's by Gem. We found it from Gem. Beautiful, beautiful Gem. She found the Beware advantage. She dug up the little box and said, she doesn't have a vote until she finds the idol. So at this point, the only one who has the idol is Tiffany. She found it episode 1. She got it right away. Now you have Gem, who has to complete it. And it looks like Nami. It's just sitting there waiting to be found. Overall, in my opinion, I think it was a solid episode. 46 has been tough to catch on with. I think it's a totally different tone than 45 so far, but I'm also a huge Survivor 45 fan, so it's hard to really kind of grade it in that way. The people I like the most are on Yanu, but that's not a surprise. We spent the most time with those people on Yanu. Love Kenzie, but in my own power rankings, I do each week on my Instagram, she's basically at rock bottom. I think she's second to only Bhanu, and that's because Bhanu, dude, I don't know what his deal is. Love Bhanu, but on screen, not going well. And Kenzie's been sold out to everybody. So Kenzie has to, by default, in my mind, be at the bottom. But I think she's going to be around for a little while longer. She may actually win this game. I still feel super confident her or Tiffany are going to win the game. So don't let there be any indication. And I naturally have to put people toward the top that have advantages or in the majority votes. That's just what it is. That's why people like Tevin are at the top, even though we haven't seen a lot of Tevin, or Maria near the top. It's just what it is for the time being. I'm happy to also introduce another segment into this week's episode. If you watch the Survivor Super Fun Time channel, you know I've talked to Mike Gabler, the winner of Survivor 43, a bunch of times. And he has been nice enough to become like we'll call it a correspondent each week during the season. And he's going to send in a video of who his hiding in plain sight player of the week is. And this week, we got a good one for you folks. So let Mike Gabler tell you who he thinks is looking pretty good and is his Hiding in Plain Sight Award winner.
Hiding in plain sight!
Man, it was a great night last night. What a show. I think my hiding in plain sight person of the week is going to be Ben Cashman, because Ben was able to go on the journey, high profile, but manage his threat level by coming back with good information about that Bhanu provided and share that with the tribe, setting everybody smiling. And then he told a little white lie, which I thought was awesome, where he said he won't find out until tribal council if he has a vote or not, keeping the tribe guessing, keeping a target off his back. So great job, Ben. Hiding in plain sight. Pick of the week. Alligabler out. Bye-bye.
I happen to agree with the Alligabler. Ben did great this week. Ben went on the journey, and the first thing he did was he let Bhanu feel comfortable and say, hey, I think that you can come back from this. Like, there's no incentive for him to do that. And he did. I mean, Liz did it as well, but I remember him opening it up to Bhanu. And we're starting to see like his emotional range and his empathy. And the fact that he wouldn't let them know he lost his vote, I thought that was brilliant. Because he is in a tenuous position. Like, if Siga has to go to tribal council, as Siga is right now, I think he's maybe in danger. I would probably say maybe Tim, but he's on the border. For what it's worth, I don't know how much it's going to matter anyway. I think a swap is coming next week, which for Yanu's sake, thank God they're going to do that. So hopefully we see a good swap, particularly maybe for Kenzie's sake. It would really be awesome if they did a swap and somehow Kenzie and Tiffany and Q ended up in the majority on a tribe. I don't know if that's mathematically possible at this point, but they need something to shake it up a little bit. And honestly, I think Survivor 46 in general needs to be shaken up, because there's a bunch of people I don't know a lot about, like Soda. Soda seems wonderful, but we don't know anything about it. All we know is she idol snatches in the first couple episodes. And I don't know. We have so much more to learn, but I'm excited to. I love Survivor. Whether it's a down season or an up season, I'm going to love it no matter what. And I'm sure there's plenty of up coming forward on this season. But that's going to do it, everybody. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. You take care, everyone. Goodbye.